All right, not much to take away from this game. Portland sucks. They're tanking. They're injured. The Knicks are also injured, but they don't suck. So they won this game. Episode 644 of the podcast. Can't tell you how long this one will be. Probably on the shorter side, 25, 30 minutes. I don't know. But let's get into it. Knicks, Blazers right now. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
The Yankees are champions of baseball.
Shaking and baking right here on the neophyte.
U.S. trying to close the show. She was doing a great job of feeding. That is over.
Coming up, so KP, don't you regret not coming to the Knicks? Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right, man. Welcome to the show. Episode 644 of BD4. Thank you for tuning into the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. Yeah, man. The Knicks picked up a good win last night. The start of this West Coast trip. They took down the Blazers 105-93 in Portland. 2 in a row for the New York Knicks. This was a game where, again, there's not much to really take away, so I can't tell you how long this episode's going to be. Anytime the Knicks match up with a bottom 5 team, there's not really much to get into detail about. But yeah, I mean, Portland is banged up right now. Some of these injuries is probably in a year where if they were competitive, they probably play through. But we're getting towards the end of the year. You're trying to look at the standings for the good team and then the tankings for teams like Portland. So I'm sure they're trying to get position for the draft, and they were without Malcolm Brogdon, Walker, Sharp, Robert Williams, Jeremy Grant, and Anthony Simons. So, yeah, they played better than I thought they would. They were playing hard. There were moments in this game where the Knicks probably could have been better, but, the Knicks are also without some guys. They were without Julius Randle, of course, Mitchell Robinson, but that's good. That's it. We're finally getting whole a little bit here. Now, OG Anunoby did play, obviously, in this game, second game back, but, a couple times where he reached in to try to get a steal or maybe took a little bit of contact where he shouted out in pain. So kind of scares the shit out of me. Left the game a couple times, came back in, was getting treatment from the trainers. I don't like seeing a guy coming back from a surgically repaired elbow screaming in pain. Not like screaming, but shouting in pain. You heard it on the telecast a couple of times. Now after the game, Tom Thibodeau said that he's okay, that this is expected. It's just a little bit of soreness. They asked OG Anunoby about it. He said he's okay, he's fine, and that he's planning to play tomorrow. That he says he will play tomorrow. We'll see. It's a little concerning. And, of course, that happens on the night that I get Garrett Cole back. It's like I can't get good news on both of my teams in one day. But the Knicks win. Again, what was the final? 105-93. Jalen Brunson had a big night. He was hot early on in this game. He was hot every quarter. But the Knicks were getting out in transition from the get-go. Then they started struggling on both ends in the middle of the first quarter, but they still went up 26-25 after one. Second quarter, Brunson's still hot. That's when OG Anunoby, you notice him getting hurt, and he was in a little bit of pain. But the Knicks managed to pull away a little bit more with a 55-41 advantage at halftime. Got off to a slow start in the third quarter, then got hot, went on this 11-2 run to really start pulling away. You had the OG Anunoby steal and slam. At that point, you were like, okay, maybe he is okay. Brunson gets hot again, 85-68 at the end of the period. Fourth quarter comes, Portland makes a little bit of a push, but Brunson comes back in, and the Knicks eventually get the job done. Again, 105-93. I want to start. Let's do that. Let's start with Jalen Brunson when we return from our first break here. We'll hand him the game ball.
Hey there, thanks for listening in so far. If you enjoy this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much.
All right, welcome back to the show. Episode 644 of the podcast. The Knicks win their first game out west. Start the West Coast trip 1-0, 2 in a row overall, with a nice 12-point victory last night over the terrible Portland Trailblazers. Jalen Brunson, 45 points, and he's going to get the game ball.
Bing bang.
Jalen was awesome. 45 points last night. He shot 47% from the field. He was a little cold from the 3-point mark, so it was one of those like quieter 45-point games from him. It wasn't like it was when he scored 50 on Phoenix. Was he 9 for 9 from 3? He was. This wasn't that. He was only 2 for 10 shooting threes. In this game, and he did most of his damage at the first 2 levels. You know, he was getting 2 feet in the paint, drawing contact, throwing his body into defenders, and just, of course, the shifty footwork, but using his low post game is really impressive. Just the way he's able to use his core strength and finish through contact. And, you know, out on the perimeter, he's doing his thing. He's rejecting screens, beating the help, and finding switches. I don't understand how this is still happening, but it is March 15th as I'm recording. This game was on March 14th. We're, less than 20, maybe 15 or so games remaining in the season. Jalen Brunson's had a second consecutive all-star caliber season. How at this point is anybody still running a drop coverage on him? Chauncey Billups was playing Ayton in a drop coverage. I don't understand it. Jalen Brunson killed him with a floater. You know, he could still hurt you with the pull-up. Like, hedge. At this point, how are we still playing in a drop on this kid? Hedge. All you got to do, hedge the screen. Keep him out of the lane. That should be every defense's pick-and-roll priority when you get Jalen Brunson up top. Like, it's amazing to me how defenses are still going into a drop on Jalen. Hedge. Come to the level and take away the lane. It's crazy. I continue to see it. And he continues to beat the defense with it. He'll pull up. He'll kill you with the runner. Like, it's... But, yeah, he was doing damage inside the arc last night. He had 4 and 1s, I counted. He was 12 for 20 from 2. That's 60%. And, of course, generating contact, getting to the free throw line, 15 for 17. 88% on the foul line. You know, it wasn't like an easy 45. It was more grind it out, work for your points. And that's what he's had to do a lot of the time without Julius. He's had to find ways to get points because his 3-point shot hasn't been as consistent. And you're seeing the Knicks trying to get Jalen offense in many other ways as opposed to just pick and roll into an isolation set. They're trying to get him into these off-ball sets, right? Especially starting the game early on, you're seeing Jalen Brunson get a lot of the looks off-ball with Dante initiating or Hart playmaking, right? You're seeing Brunson come off cuts from the weak side, run that into DHO. You're seeing him come off stagger screens last night. Dante and Hart, he came around to stagger for them, knocks down the 3. So you're seeing them try to incorporate Brunson in these off-ball actions. But even then, it's a lot of running around. It's a lot of conditioning. So until Julius gets back, it's going to be like this way. It's going to be like this for Jalen. But if there's anybody I trust to, keep doing his thing and have faith that this is going to be sustainable, it's Jalen Brunson. He has worked well with this starting unit. iHeart has been a revelation on this team. And I guess that's where we're going to segue. Credit to Isaiah Hartenstein, who really continues to just impress the shit out of me. And he's looking good. He's not, he looked rusty for a little bit there with the Achilles, but he's starting to really thrive. And the Knicks continue to run half-court offense through their bigs, which is a big reason why it's been so successful, right? And this is why that come playoff time, even if everybody gets healthy, I want Isaiah Hartenstein as my starting center. And honestly, come the offseason, I'm willing to move Mitch and pay iHeart, but that's a different conversation. But Isaiah Hartenstein, the main reason I want this guy starting is he's a modern-day big, right? You've heard the jokes before about he's, Jokic in the Eastern Conference. There's another nickname out there I won't say, but, he's a really good offensive big, unlike Mitchell Robinson. And there are so many things he does to open up the floor for the Knicks, even though he's not a shooter, right? The playmaking at a short roll, that's been something you've been seeing from him. The defense traps up top. Isaiah Hartenstein rolls, extended free throw line, makes the play, kick out of that. It's the high post playmaking where they use him as a playmaking hub, and he's able to work very well with his guards and find cutters, right? DHO, give and go, back cuts, backdoor plays, and those blind pig actions we've been seeing. Just he has an ability to operate away from the basket, which draws the defense to the level and it spaces out the paint. And that's the main priority when you have top scorers in the paint like a Jalen Brunson and eventually Julius Randle. Having a guy like iHeart who has excellent chemistry with Dante DiVincenzo in particular, right? Finding him on cuts constantly. Did some more last night. Even Deuce McBride, him and iHeart have a nice chemistry. We mentioned Brunson getting off ball more lately. Josh Hart's a good cutter. And OG Anunoby, ever since he's been here, remember before the injury, he was even involved in a lot of those actions where they had OG getting downhill a lot, right? And running him in those Chicago actions, pinned down into DHO into pick and roll. And of course, it's everything that Mitchell Robinson doesn't bring you, iHeart brings you, and then even the things that Mitch does, iHeart's still able to do that at a very good clip to where that's why I prefer him starting. Because, of course, he's not Mitch, right? Mitch is a master in drop coverage, but Isaiah Hartenstein can still do the traditional things at a good clip. He's a hustle machine down low on the glass, just like Mitchell Robinson. He's still playing good defense, protecting the rim, and playing adequate to above average pick and roll defense. So my hope is that if the Knicks do get whole, Thibs does the right thing and he keeps iHeart with the starters when Mitch returns. At the end of the day, both of them are going to get 24-24, right? But it's more the lineups that we play with. I love the synergy that iHeart has with these starting guards. He just brings a lot more. He can actually do things with the ball. It's not just your traditional rim running. And Thibs is starting to figure some things out with this rotation. You're starting to get a good idea now at this point of what he's going to do. Especially with the guards, right? Last night, second time he's done this, where he's played Deuce McBride with Jalen Brunson and with Dante DiVincenzo, as opposed to going to the Detroit guys. Deuce saw time at 2 guard last night, and that's when he plays best, is when he's right next to Brunson. He stayed on the floor when those Detroit guys came out. So you got to give credit to Tom Thibodeau for going with the necessary adjustments, like he should be. At the end of the night, McBride finished with 22 minutes and Burks just 4 minutes. Alec Burks, top of the second quarter, takes his usual out of rhythm of the offense, contested mid-range jumper on the first action in the shot clock, and then you could tell Thibs didn't like that because he was pulled pretty much right after that. He looks horrible. He can't finish at the basket. He's still been one of the worst in the game at that. He's not scoring off the dribble efficiently. His only baskets seem to come as a weak side spot up. I think Alec Burks is as close to being finished with the Knicks as he can before the season finishes. It's not official yet, but how many more signs could you really give? He got 4 minutes last night. Even when Brunson was out, he was barely getting time. I think he's done. I even think Bojan Bogdanovic is not in that same territory, but you can see, if you were to tell me if the playoffs started tomorrow and Bojan Bogdanovic would be in the Fournier doghouse, wouldn't be shocked, right? His defense is way too poor for him to play much, and he's not giving you consistent offense right now. He's kind of just like Fournier, salary at this point. I don't know. Because the frustrating part is they're doing everything they can to get him going. They're getting him in actions. He's just not executing, right? You're seeing them run him in ghost screens and pick and pop, spot ups, pin downs. He's initiating off ball screens, on ball. Sorry. He's guys are finding him. They're finding him in the second side. And that's something that that's the reason I'm still holding out hope that maybe he'll look a little better when Julius gets back, because of the gravity that Randall has. When the defense loads up onto Randall on the strong side of the floor, it's going to open up the weak side for Bojan to attack the gaps in space. So that's something that might help him. You saw a possession last night where Brunson was on the strong side, Bojan on the weak side. The defense loaded up ball side, and so Brunson kicked to Bojan, and he attacked in space. It's something that's only gonna he's only gonna see more looks like that when Randall gets back because of Randall's gravity. So I don't want to fully give up on Bojan, but I would think that his role, again, if the playoffs started tomorrow, would be, and let's say everybody's healthy and the playoffs start, he's the 8.5 guy right now, getting situational minutes with Precious, and Precious is probably the favorite. But yeah, I'm loving a lot of these lineup combinations. How about the trio when you have OG, Dante, Deuce, right? Deuce at 2, Dante at 3, OG at 4. Dante is very rarely at the wing, but now that OG is has returned, you can do this. You got 3 guys who can fly around the floor and do everything at once, help, recover, rotate. You add Precious to that, playing 5. He's improved protecting the rim. He's a mobile pick and roll defender. He can switch. You put Deuce, Hart, OG, and Precious out there too. That's another good one. Again, I mentioned that last episode. That's impossible to. It's Deuce, Hart, OG, and Precious. It's impossible to switch that. You can't switch that. You can't put that in a pick and roll and get a favorable switch. It's so many things that Thibs can do now, and you're seeing him use OG Anunoby on off-ball weapons, right? So he's not always going to be on the ball, and that's, going to help him because he's able to use his wingspan. He's able to help from the strong side and disrupt the driving lanes. It's the small things like that. But the lineup versatility is just like he went with small ball. Dante at wing. That's what I like seeing. The Brunson, Deuce, Dante, Hart, Precious lineups were good too. That's even without OG in there. Like, he went to Dante at wing. How often did we see that? Right. That was the lineup that actually helped them beat the Sixers in one of those. I don't know if it was the first game or second game back from All-Star break. He went to that lineup and it really helped them in the second half. We talked a lot last episode about Precious Achiuwa being better at the 5 than when he's at 4. Well, what did we see last night? Thibs staggered them again to assure that, right? And having OG Anunoby back and able to play the 4 allows that to happen more often. So it's nice to see Thibs being a little bit flexible and experimenting with different lineups during the season so that we get to the playoffs, he's not forced to go to a lineup that has zero experience, right? I was listening to a pod this morning, and they brought up a good point. Like, Knicks fans in the We Hear season were advocating for Derrick Rose to start over Elfrid Payton forever. And Thibs finally goes with that, but he waited so long, he went to it in the playoffs where they barely had any experience together, right? So that's something I'm happy that we're seeing him go small ball right now, so we don't have to, wait until the playoffs and the results are not what we want. But I guess we can segue into Deuce McBride because he's going to get the game ball from off the bench.
Bing bang.
Deuce was good. 6 points, 3 rebounds. It was a plus 13 in the box score last night. 50% from the field. He was good. He went back to that pull-up mid-range jumper. That seems to be something that he's finding a home with. Didn't really do much else scoring-wise, but the defense remains fantastic. His ability to navigate screens and chase down his assignment, running wild out there. The ball denial remains elite, right? Early in the second quarter, Portland's an ATO offense, and Deuce denies the ball. Then he grabs the steal off the inbound pass and finishes in transition. He's been such a valuable rotation player that he got a contract extension midseason from this team, and the Knicks traded away Grimes. And I don't think they trade away Grimes if Deuce doesn't do what he's been doing. He's kind of the new Grimes, and you can make a case at this point. I'm hearing all about Grimes really, really struggling over there in Detroit, which doesn't help the anti-Thibs narrative. Can you say that Deuce McBride is a better basketball player than Quentin Grimes right now? And I think the ceiling's there for him. It's a valid conversation to have. But yeah, credit to Deuce McBride. Another game ball for him. He continues to play very well for this Knicks team, man. And that's now 14 game balls on the season for Deuce. So good for him. We're going to head to break, get back, and a few more things to talk about when we return. Stay with us. Be back in a few minutes.
You can follow us on social media as well. On Instagram, we're at BD4Pod and at Rob J. Carbone. On X, we're at BD4Pod and at RJCBD4. And on Facebook, we're BD4. If you're interested in our website, just go to www.bd4blog.com. You can subscribe to our blog on there right on the front page. Just like on the podcast, we cover Yankees, Knicks, and MMA. Also on our website are the links to the different platforms for the podcast. Thanks so much.
Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio 69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born. Welcome back to the show. Episode 644 of the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. The Knicks win their first game out west. The first of a 4 or 5 game West Coast trip. 105-93. They held 93 more points. Listen, they were coasting a lot in this game, the Knicks. They weren't 100% on their game, especially in the second half. It was a little lackluster, even to start the game early on. But they still managed to get 45 from Jalen Brunson, and they still managed to hold the Blazers to just 93 points. So that makes now 4 games in a row where their opponent has scored less than 100 points. And that puts the Knicks back into the top 7 in defense. Their defensive rating now slides back into 7th. I can only imagine what it'd be right now had OG stayed healthy. You know, I probably won. Like, I wouldn't be shocked. And again, it's OG Anunoby making everybody else's lives easier. You know, Dante DiVincenzo seeing less at the point of attack, and he's back more into his off-ball help role, where he's more comfortable roaming and rotating, causing havoc, jumping DHO. You know, a good example of that is the first quarter. A quick lunge at DeAndre Ayton, strips him, and he finishes with a floater on the fast break. He, I think, did it again in the second quarter. Just a much better role for him, and he's allowed to do that with Anunoby now here, a long 7-foot wingspan wing. So the defense did its job once again. I mean that's it. Like, it's just an easy win. It's nice to win 2 games in a row again. I can't remember the last time the Knicks did that, let alone 3, but hopefully they can make it 3. Sacramento tomorrow night. Let's hope that OG Anunoby plays. The good thing is that Philly lost to Milwaukee last night, so they fall behind the Knicks another game. The Knicks are in 4th place, 1 game above the Magic, who play tonight. 3 from Indiana in the loss column, 3 from Philly, and 3 from Miami in the loss column. Tonight, the Knicks are off, but the Magic play the Raptors. That's not great for us. The Heat play the Pistons. Also not great for the Knicks. And but that's going to make tomorrow's game against a solid Kings team. It's going to make it pretty important, you know. Just to lock down that 4th seed, I would like to gain some separation from Orlando. It's seeming more and more likely that that's going to be the team the Knicks match up with in the first round. So I would like for that extra game to be at the Garden. That's not a team I'm concerned about either, by the way. I know they had their little 3 in a row against the Knicks at one point. But again, how many of those games were with this new rotation, and how many of those games were with a healthy Knicks team? Just 1, and that was the lone game that the Knicks took. So I don't trust Orlando in a playoff. I think they're too young. I don't think they shoot or score the ball well enough. I don't think they do the little things like boxing out well enough. I think the Knicks can take them. But lots of season to go. We still have, again, 15, 16 maybe games left. So let's see what happens going forward. But that's it. That's all I have. So with that said, we'll head to our final break and wrap it up with our trivia when we return. Stay with us here on BD4, episode 644.
Thanks for listening to BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA, Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion.
I'm hungry. I'm gonna go make some dinner in a second. Let's wrap it up. I think, yeah, that's all we have to say. Let's wrap it with our trivia. Okay, so for our trivia question in this episode, Patrick Ewing, let me say that again. Patrick Ewing has the most games for the Knicks with 8 20-point, 10 rebound, 5 assist, 3 steal efforts. Who is second with 5? I have a feeling we did this before. It's hard to keep track of all these trivias. We are 644 episodes in, but again, Patrick Ewing has the most games for the Knicks with 8 20-point, 10 rebound, 5 assist, 3 steal efforts. Who is second with 5? One last time. Patrick Ewing has the most games for the Knicks with 8 20-point, 10 rebound, 5 assist, 3 steal efforts. Who is second with 5? All right. So with that said, that is all we have. Episode 644 is in the books. I will see you in 645. I'm trying my best to get to the Yankees again, with the Cole update, which was a positive yesterday. I'll try my best to get to that. Can't tell you when. I've just been very busy with some things. So if I can get to that this weekend, that'd be great. I'll try. But as for this episode, 644 is in the books. I'll see you in the next show. Again, maybe it's Yankees. Maybe it's Knicks, Kings. We'll see. That's it, though, for this one. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you then. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you, and we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees, and go Knicks!